I'm on here.
Oh, it's my phone.
Everybody here? I want to have a little conversation about something today. It's about honor. I don't really want to talk much about it if that's not something you guys at least have a rudimentary idea of. Can someone explain to me what honor is?
Respect.
It's a good one, yeah.
That's what I thought of too.
What does that look like, though? How do we honor? How do we respect?
I feel like it comes with humility towards the person.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think of respect, I think of appreciating the value that they have.
Yes, humility is absolutely a place that you start with in any expression, at least, of respect or honor towards a person. You guys can be more specific too, because there obviously are many contexts, many relationships in which honor is expressed or present. And so we have a very particular set of relationships in this place and the way that we do things here. How would honor work here?
Coming on time is
Mhm.
honorable.
Yeah.
I think it has to do with also understanding right order of like relationships with people,
Yeah.
and also I guess just who God says others are, and then learning to honor in that way.
Yeah.
It's either kind of a holding of a standard
Yeah.
or a meeting that standard.
Yeah.
Doing what's expected of
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
doing what's expected.
Now, just an honest and general assessment. How do you feel that we are performing here as far as honoring one another? I know this is probably not something you guys have thought a whole lot about. And I would say that's okay, except that it's the reason that you actually come here. Is it not? To learn to honor each other? A few weeks ago I assigned you guys a self-evaluation. Why do you come here? Why are you here? Some of you guys said that you come here to learn how to love, I remember. What form does that love take? Is it simply kindness? That's one form of love, absolutely. I'll tell you, one of the most, if not the most important expression, fundamental expression of love is honor.
I would say, and just for me personally, my idea, or not necessarily idea, but how honor takes place in my life is I genuinely believe that I have something I can learn from every individual here, student and teacher alike.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to not just learn that from them in a very studious way, but in a relational way, if that makes sense. And so I treat every person as if they have something highly valuable that I want to gain from interacting with them. But that interaction itself is I don't know. There's less like medical than that. It's not quite such a
Understand.
robot. Yeah.
I think honor can be found in, there's many times missed in the small ways, and it's broadened too much. But honoring the person, honoring a way of life, and honoring yourself is pretty practical, actually. It's not. And that's why it is kind of easy to skate over, because it's something that is a very basic part. It is a basic of life.
Yeah. I want to mention something about honor that is especially relevant to this group of people. Being dishonorable does not, and I would say most often, does not come from a place of maliciousness, of wanting to be dishonorable, of knowing you're not being honorable and choosing to continue to be dishonorable. That is usually not how dishonor works. It very, very often comes from a place of ignorance, which is why we're here to learn to no longer be ignorant about honor and respect and love. Now, with this in mind, those of us who are more of or more in a place of exemplifying that and teaching it and pointing it out even, are able to understand when there's a falling short in that. But that understanding is not going to be us overlooking it. It's going to be us pointing it out, addressing it. That's how we end up learning it. Of course, that's the teacher's part. The student's part, which should be pretty obvious, is to be willing to take that on, to be willing to go through with it, to even expect and look forward to that shortcoming being addressed in themselves, because that's kind of the nature of ignorance of a thing, is you don't know that you're doing it, you don't know that it's a tendency or a habit, you don't know that what you did was dishonorable, and someone helps to show you that it was. Now, let me be a little more specific. Someone like me, as your writing teacher, and I do consider myself your teacher despite, not actually despite things I've said, but much in line with things I've said, as far as being a student with you. Because in learning culture and learning love and learning honor, I am absolutely a student with you. I've perfected nothing there. I've achieved no ultimate end there. That's something that I strive to excel in, as I hope the rest of you do, or at least are coming to. But as your teacher, I have been given that role to address those kind of things in you. Does everyone understand that? It's not simply a matter of me wanting to presumptuously exercise some sense of authority or station that I've been given over you guys, but this is the way that it has been appointed by, to be blunt, the elders in our community, and even by the Lord himself, to facilitate this learning process in this young people, in this community. I don't see myself or my dad or Justin as just good and obvious options for teachers of this culture center. I see myself and them as appointed to play that role, at least in this season of all of our lives. Would anyone disagree with me on that? And so, again, let's be a little more specific of how this as dressing has worked so thus far. What is one thing that we've kind of been struggling with a little bit recently as a class, if you will?
Maybe communication.
Yeah. When we are failing to be responsive, what does that tell? Firstly, what does that tell the teacher?
There's a lack of understanding, maybe?
Maybe in part, but from what I have observed over the last year or more, it's not as much come from a place of lacking understanding. It's been a little bit deeper than that.
There's a lack of care.
And what does a lack of care show?
Disrespect.
Which is dishonorable. Let's look at it from my perspective. And remember, we're not dealing with people that are trying to stay on the sidelines or don't want to engage. We're dealing with incidents of those who may be completely ignorant of the fact that they are being dishonorable. But for me, what about the submission of an assignment being late, or there being no communication? What do you think matters more to me in a situation like that? That your assignment wasn't finished?
The
Or-
relationship.
Yes. Or that there was no communication to me about it? What do I end up feeling? And again, this is not about what I feel, this is about what actually has happened.
I feel dishonored.
It's dishonorable. Every time there is a case of dishonor, it undermines the very purpose of this place. You guys see how consequential that is? And so looking at the consequential nature of it, not just from what has happened, but how you go forward from here. It's with the assignments as one example I'm using. Why does it matter that we do something on time? Why does it matter that we stay in communication with one another? What are we building? What are we fostering when we do that? What are we conscious of when we make sure to do that?
A standard of life, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Which in the context of this discussion is what specifically? It's honor. Now this is not supposed to be something shockingly new to any of you, something novel to you. I don't think any one of you would disagree that it's good to communicate, that it's good to have things on time. But what I'm really wanting to clarify with you today is why it's important. Especially as it relates to you even being in this building with these people on this day in the first place. What the intent is. This is to tie back into the conversation we had some weeks ago about why you're here. Elijah, I wanted to ask you if you wouldn't mind sharing one occasion with Emmanuel that you experienced when you forgot to submit an essay.
Which one?
The one where he told you to write it anyways.
Yeah. Well. Yeah, that was we were writing on. We decided to write on the 7 wonders of the world because we were learning about it at the time, and we were assigned to write about all of them. not just one. And not that I purposely just wrote about one, but I was a little distracted and just went and wrote about one. Wasn't the best work. Sent it in the manual. Had a pretty disciplinary response to that, saying that this is not acceptable. And it was already like 9 o'clock in the evening, and it was due the next day. They said, I'm going to need you to write another one for the next day. So I did, and I had a pretty immature mind and heart at that point in my life, so I really took this as just harshness, someone being hard on me.
If you don't mind, describe to us how you felt.
I felt
when Emmanuel pointed that out in you and started communicating to you in a certain way.
I felt not good. I felt like I was being disciplined and like he was being too hard on me. And that's because, well, looking back on it, I have a different understanding because at that point I didn't really understand Emmanuel's heart in a lot of ways. But for my immature mind, I did feel like it was harsh. But I think I remember, even back in that time, I trusted. Maybe trust isn't the right word. I knew Emmanuel's heart was not against me, but it was for me. So I wrote that essay, stayed up really late, and it turned out to be one of the best essays that I actually ever wrote at that time. And Emmanuel was pretty impressed with it. But I was able to really flip my heart around even in that whole time of writing it. It's actually a very memorable night to me. I'll never forget.
Well, those are the kind of nights that, and be frank with me if I'm wrong about this, but those are turning points in your life.
That was very much a turning point in my life.
It would not be too dramatic to say that an experience like that changed you as a person. It started to change your attitude towards life. And I wanted to point out too, it was not just a feeling of reaction towards Emmanuel as someone who was disciplining you that you felt, but you felt disappointed with yourself, didn't you?
Yeah.
Is that true?
I did, yeah.
That's another thing I want you guys to be very very careful about is, and this actually varies family to family because I know different families approach this differently. But feeling bad about yourself is not a bad thing. In fact, if you think that by being disciplined and avoiding that feeling is the right way to go, then you've been taught wrong. And you're not going to learn your lesson. You think you're going to learn anything if there's not a sense of conviction in you of having done something incorrectly? Now, am I saying that you should be hard on yourself or that you should not have patience with yourself? No, that's not at all what I'm saying. But you aren't going to learn your lesson as effectively, if at all, if in those moments of discipline, of pointing out the wrong, of addressing the fault, you try to ignore or dissipate those feelings of disappointment. Those are good feelings. Those are feelings that are actually being conjured in you by the hand at work in your soul and in your heart to produce something new that was incapable of being wrought in you because of your past ignorance, because of your unenlightened block, if you will, mental block of dishonor. It's meant to be painful. What is it said in Hebrews somewhere about no discipline is unpainful at the time, but it's something that we go through with a trial and suffering. That's every area of discipline, is it not? And so let's make sure that when we are learning our lesson, that when we are being taught something, even remonstrated, that we're going through with it. That it's not just falling on deaf and protected ears. Is that understood by everyone?
Yeah, you make a choice there, just like that example I used in my own story. I had to make a choice in that night to how I was really going to respond to that. Because I was going to write an essay. I had to. That was what I was going to do. But the choice I had to make was what kind of heart that was going to come through. And fortunately, through that small amount of conviction I did have in my heart, I was able to push my soul aside a little bit and actually go through with something. But that's a choice kind of in these disciplinary or conviction places that is to be made.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're going to let take control of you.
Yep. I have a small assignment for you guys this week. This is one of those subjects that I'm going to very forcefully and loudly uphold as a thing that I want you guys to think seriously about. I want it to become as important to you as it is for me. So I'm going to be very adamant about it. You're going to write about honor, but not in the abstract sense. You're not just going to approach it as this concept. I want you to write it. I want you to write this writing. It doesn't have to be an essay, but I want you to put thought into it, so it shouldn't just be a few sentences either. You're going to write it to me. And not to me in the sense that you're trying to honor me directly, like in whatever shallow sense you may understand that. But you're going to basically have a conversation with me about it. And I'm going to respond to you. So you're going to offer your thoughts about honor, and the way this becomes a not an abstract thing is you're going to consider it specifically in your engagement in this place, okay? But I would not at all advise you to leave out how it looks in your family, how it looks in your other relationships, because those are the very things that matter most. In fact, it's the focus of this place. It's what we're learning to do here together, so that we can do outside of this place, right? And since it's going to be a conversation of sorts, you can ask questions. That is due by Sunday. And then a final note as far as your last essay assignment goes. For those of you who have not finished, and for those of you who still want to at least touch some things up, brush it up a little bit, you are to have that finished, completely finished, by Friday. Is that understood by everybody? All right. With our remaining time,